by training, and I'm honored to have this very important minds, I call them minds, in this panel on who controls AI. So what I'm going to do is give just a short, maybe 30 seconds or a quick fire, who are you, and just a bit about yourself. Let's start with you, Ichi.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be here. Ichi, that's what they call me. Dr. Ishada is my formal name. In AI and infrastructure, so I build the infrastructure that allows you to use all of the AI services that you use.
Hi, my name is Karari Namunyo, born and raised in western part of Kenya. I came to the US in 2017 to study, and my focus is go-to-market strategies, and right now I work with Dell Technologies in Austin, Texas. Happy to be here, thank you.
Hi, my name is Deborah Karaoke. I'm a former software engineer, but now a professor at University of Maryland in Baltimore County. I have background in software engineering, computer science, and cybersecurity. I'm a certified ethical hacker, and I created the only Black Plant Masters of Computer Science in Education in Maryland and also in the United States, the only one by a Black woman. And I worked for IBM as a software developer and a threat intelligence analyst for 16 years.
Also, Deb, yeah, Deb, I always say Deb is a superstar. She just keeps pushing. I want to start with just one sentence.
Right now, the most important thing is for Africa to prepare itself strategically. Are we going to be starting to build data centers, or are we going to focus on developing talent? And the ambassador has mentioned here that the most important thing for us, that resource that we have, is talent. You're looking at a median age of 19 years. So as a population, and just looking at the young people that we have to leverage that to make sure that we provide value, and we can define the kind of value that we want to get from artificial intelligence as we go forward. But to answer your question, global companies have interests, and that is what they are focusing. They are looking at us as a market.
Yeah.
So we have to decide what kind of value is in for us, and we go for it. And we have a lot that we can do as a continent.
Great, we have to decide on the value. Coming to you, Ichi, in terms of what value and infrastructure. I know you're very big on data centers and infrastructure. And we have talent, but we can have talent without resources, right? The infrastructure, how I look at it is you can have maize in the shamba, right? But if you don't have the infrastructure to move the maize, even those people will not benefit. So walk us through about how you see the infrastructure and how we can bring it together, and so that we bring the people, we train the people to use the infrastructure.
Yeah, I think I will focus on infrastructure in a second.
Yeah.
But I do want to weigh in on something that you said, right? I mean, I've been in tech and telecommunications for over 30 years, so I've seen it transition, from computers that were barely, that were DOS-based all the way to where they are today. But I've also seen the same transition happen in what they call African countries, from third world countries to developing countries. Then suddenly there was interest, emerging markets, and now it's next billion users. So there's definitely an interest in getting double-digit returns from countries in Africa. So we need to be aware of the fact that they need us as much as, we probably don't need them as much as they need us. They are seeking those double-digit margins. Now, when it comes to infrastructure, and again, I'll be pretty controversial over here because I live in this world where the training at the, let's say, software level, or what you call prompt engineering and all these new terms that are coming up, I honestly don't see that as where the jobs are going to benefit us in Africa. Because to build infrastructure, you need engineers. To build infrastructure, you need data technicians. To build infrastructure, you need supply chain, you need logistics, you need project managers, program managers. Thousands of jobs that are available as a result of infrastructure being built. And so I think one of the things I want to declare as a message to everyone here is, let's stop focusing on the, can I use the word sexy over here? Let's stop focusing on the sexiness up here. Oh, I want to be an engineer, software engineer, prompt engineer. Let's focus on the jobs that are available because of the infrastructure. I work with people who design the machines. How many people can design machines here? We need to get those people jobs. How many people know computer-aided design, CAD, drawing flow plans? We need those people here. How many people know how cooling works, how network works? We need to train those people. I do take, I wish Balozi was here because we've talked a lot about, what employment and a ready workforce means. I want to challenge us Kenyans. We can't just sit and say we have talent. Statistically, the people that I work with, especially Africans, Kenya is a very small minority of people who I interview. And the question is why? Why Nigerians? Why South Africans? Why Ghanaians? Right? Why Togo? I don't even know where Togo is, but we interview Togo people, right? But you get my point. I think in Kenya we say, oh, we are talented. We really need to take a look at ourselves and say, are we truly talented and ready for this workforce? The Indians have thought about what's needed 30 years from today. The Chinese have done the same. We can't live in the M-Pesa past. I'm sorry, guys. M-Pesa was a decade ago. We need to be more innovative than that. Sorry about my passion. I just really
I totally agree with you on that. And I am sorry to cut you. I can give you a very practical example. For those of you who don't know, I've been in this space for such a long time. I actually did my PhD in 2013 and did machine learning. I worked at Dell, and I was very passionate about creating the Dell tech strategy, the data strategy, and I was very influential. And I wanted to have a team from Kenya. I had a $500,000 project to just come in and help us label the data. That's when we did not have large language models, right? And I pushed so hard for my VP and said, we need to get some people from Kenya and they can come and help us label the data. Labeling data is very menial, manual job, right? For those of you who know about like natural language processing. And I taught to a couple of, I think, iHub centers. I'm not going to name them because it completely hurt my feelings. And I set up the meeting with the VPs, and they were in the meeting, and those people were a no-show. They were a no-show, and it completely shattered me. Those are my people, they did not show up for me. So I am very skeptical about the talent, right? I have worked with some people in Silicon Valley. There is a perception about the Kenyan talent. There's a perception about the Kenyan talent about that. So when we talk about talent in Kenya, I usually sometimes stay on the sidelines because I have first-hand experience. I need to see some level of discipline. We lack some discipline, in the talent aspect of it. And I'm just being very, purely honest over here. So I think when it's very important, Ichi, I agree with you that let's not stop saying we have talent. Let's demonstrate we have talent. And so back to the pipeline and the talent aspect of it, the educator here, right? So how do you're building talent within this space? Because even the US has had to figure out about talent in this country. So Deb, walk us through what is the first two or the top three things we need to do to build talent in Africa, in Kenya?
Sure. So when I was working for IBM, I actually took a sabbatical to work at the Obama administration for computer science for all. I was subject matter expert to create curriculum to educate teachers. This has been going on now for how long? How long has it been out? About 15 years or so. And during that time, I tried to reach out to several universities in Kenya. They could have cared less of what I had to offer. I was across this country. I had contract with 38 states to train teachers how to teach computer science. Jean could never find me. Jean was my neighbor. And all the time, she's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm in Idaho, training teachers from the rural areas who knew nothing about computer science so that they could train the students to teach computer science. And by that, just by them getting exposed to that, then they can learn other things that are there. Just because you're trained as a computer scientist doesn't mean that you become, just because you do computer science doesn't mean you go to become a computer scientist, just like when you don't do chemistry to become a pharmacist. So what it would take surely in Kenya for us to train Kenyans is for some of the people who are in leadership to accept that some of us who came here and got trained have some skills that we can offer. We were not charging anybody anything. Jean and I have tried a couple of things, and I say, I want to give my services. I want to go to the Teachers College and give my services of this kind of things that I've created for me to even be called by a university and asked to create a whole master's program from grounds up. So we want to offer some of that information so that we can support. We are not saying that Kenyans are not smart. We know Kenyans are smart. I came here in the 90s. I had not used a computer in Kenya when I came here to major in computer science. So we know we are smart. We can do it. If you put us anywhere from the system of education we've gone through, we can do it. The only things that we need to do is we truly need to not have people who are now saying, oh, I have a curriculum out of the box and people can use it. They need to be that relationship. We need to be able to go in, let's go to any university and say, I've been a software engineer, I've worked for IBM for so many years. These are the things I learned. This is what I know. Now can I support you? And hopefully they would listen to us as we support them. And that again is forming those kind of infrastructures, those kind of opportunities to allow students to advance. As much as we may say again, we have talent, if people are not studying for the jobs that are not even in existence, you know, having that I'm missing out my words, I don't know where my words are going. But if we don't really teach people how to learn, you know, we know our system, the system we use, a lot of memorization, not a lot of application. If we don't continuously let people know, once you have these techniques, you need to continuously advance yourself with what you have. When I joined cybersecurity, there was no word called cybersecurity when I was doing security at IBM. I just noticed that there were certain people, mainly white male, in certain groups that were always doing certain things, and I was very curious. So we need to teach that, that knowledge that yes, you have the foundation of the education. With this foundation, what else can you do and where else can you go beyond? And right now, again, we don't have to have all these colleges all over Kenya just taking people's money. A lot of the things that they're teaching can be found online. So how can you curate this information so whether you're in the city or you're in the village, you can get access to this information for free, just like Americans are doing, because again, AI has revolutionized how we learn. There's so much information that is online for free, that people don't have to be charged for, so that we don't have so much haves and have-nots. Because again, if we have infrastructures, if we have a lot of training at the top, and we are not taking it to everybody, and only a few have, we'll still be in the same place.
Thank you so much, Deb. I think we have we have some time to interact with the audience, if the panel would allow me.
Sure.
So that at least we have, some sort of interactive. This is a very important topic. And as you can see, these are great minds over here. So I would, we're gonna help with the microphone. Yeah, thank you. And so, fire away your questions. I always say there is never a stupid question. Just fire away.
This is what it is. As we interact with the panel, we want to make a contribution, and also if you have a specific question, please ask a question in a very specific way so that they can add value. We've seen a hand here, another one there. Anyone else who wants to contribute, so that we have about 10 minutes to do that. Please make it brief and introduce yourself for purposes of record. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Agina, and I'm an educator in the secondary school level in the US. And my question, because we talked about infrastructure building, and I'm really interested in this because I've seen how we build infrastructure in the US. As Kenyans, because I'm looking at this, how do we build our infrastructure in our country at the secondary school level? Because the problem is we do not have any infrastructure. They get out there, they graduate, and then suddenly they're told, oh, there's AI, and then they run into all these colleges, and that's where the problem is coming from. So how do we then channel so that we build infrastructure that actually starts from the basics, especially now that we have the CBC?
Thank you very much. As we said, your name and the brief comment or question, and direct it to our panelists.
Thank you very much. My name is Joanne Bessia from Kenya, and I run an AI education center that educates Africa in artificial intelligence. And therefore my question, and I have two questions, one directed to, I think, Dr. Ishaga, and the other one could be anyone really. Dr. Ishaga, you talked about infrastructure. AI is owned and controlled by the people with money. Quick question, is AI education an infrastructure? That is my first question. The second question is that I heard a lot across the panel about Kenyans and so on and so forth, about not getting the right people, or it's an attitude problem. So my question is it that as Kenyans we lack the knowledge bank that is required by AI revolutionists, or is it a nonchalant attitude that we have as Kenyans, and as educators, what do we do about it?
Thank you very much. And this QR code is on your table for those of you who want to access the program and what we are going to discuss for the next 2 days. Please scan it for the record.
Hello, my name is Josh Gray. I am I'm an IT project manager, former federal employee, turned solo founder. And my question, I heard mention about, again, AI's infrastructure, and I just wanted to, like, a little bit understand better the resource constraints, as well as when I think about how does Kenya or Africa in general stay on the frontier or compete with the frontier labs, being that they have like all the big resources. I'm thinking of like, where do you, and was mentioned M-Pesa. One of the advantages of M-Pesa was that you got to come later, whereas you didn't have to go through the long period of how telecom got to build up. You got to come when it was already like a high-speed mobile web. And so in the same way, I'm wondering, like, where do you come in, right? As far as China is building, China has a lot of the open source models that are becoming more powerful. So is Kenya, are we saying Kenya should maybe try to compete with the Frontier Lab models, or maybe use open source, or like, where can Kenya get in the game to where it's feasible?
Good morning. My name is Emmanuel Kieti. I would say I've been so much in the policy space, tech policy space. So that's generally my background. So my question would be about the issue of talent, because I would want to agree that it's really part of that ecosystem, AI ecosystem. So noting the observations that you've made about how that quality is really something of concern. So what would be the best way to really address that aspect of talent? Because you put so much effort, you put so much, I mean, that's generally what came out from your comments or your presentation. So that's my concern. What would be the best way forward? Because people would love to get involved in that aspect.
As we continue to get valuable knowledge from Dr. Ishatha, Karani, and Debbie, of course moderated by our assistant Dr. Jean, please allow me to take just one more question, and then we can come back to you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Julius Kemei, and I've loved the discussion on the AI, and I see there is a very big opportunity, especially for the young people, that they can be absorbed into this particular area. And I was just sitting down and really questioning myself, like, you as a frontier that you've been in the industry, have you realized, or have you been able to notice some of the barrier to entry, such a way that it's reducing the number of people within our community as diaspora within the tech area that can bring out the influence of artificial intelligence and the opportunity within that sector. So if that one can be addressed, most probably it can help as we reach out even to other people that are more, I know the young people who are more interested, so that we can build up together in this area.
Thank you, Dr. Jean. As we come back to you, just important to remind ourselves that talent is normally 10%. 90% is the attitude that we put on that.
Yeah, thank you. I think if what I've heard, the questions center more around education and talent. And so I'm going to have at least each of you try and answer in the broader perspective of, education and talent. And then we're going to go to the last one of the barriers to entry. So I think the gentleman here talked about education, something in education, the lady, so I think a big umbrella is education. And then the last gentleman talked about barrier to entry. So we start with education, bring it, and then talk about barriers to entry. Okay, let's start
Sounds
with you.
good. So yes, education and building a workforce for the future is what we call it. So the good news is the challenges we're talking about today are not exclusive to Kenya. Over the past, I would say 6 months, I've been part of several associations, partnerships with the counties, educators, employers, employees, and all of them are asking the same thing. What do we need to do to our education system at a primary, secondary school level and at a college level to prepare the workforce of the future? So the good news is that this is conversation that's happening and Kenya is not lagging behind at that. So I want to make that point. The second thing, and you asked about what are the fundamentals that need to be taught. And when I talk about infrastructure, an article came out from Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, and how much money he's investing in plumbers, electricians, mechanists, because those are the jobs that are needed right now to build the infrastructure. So even as we think about the higher level of software engineering and prompt engineering, I want us to think about what are the basic fundamental jobs that are driving this infrastructure and train people according to those jobs. The third thing I would say, I've been an educator for a long time. I've taught in colleges here, and I've also taught in colleges in Kenya, Strathmore, I Love Africa, and I did it online, which was very interesting. And the one thing I can say that I admire a lot about the college system is the ability to pivot. So in terms of being able to do, Microsoft one time, Cisco next time, Checkpoint next time, and AI, I think colleges have it down packed. They are able to pivot, right? So I'm not even concerned about the curriculum pivoting. What I'm concerned about is that is not enough. What we need is this knowledge transfer that says, yes, now you have graduated out of college. Do you have the upskill, the skill set? Do you have the mindset, and we talked about, and then do you have the strategy to be able to articulate yourself to get a job? That's where KUSAT comes in. And one of the things that's disappointing to me is, look how many people are here. We're so few. If indeed we want to grow, we need to pack this place with thousands of people. That is how we move. That is how we mobilize. So the answer to you, and to you, and to you is get your people here. Because when people hear the knowledge that's required to upskill for these jobs, then we can make a move. So I'll summarize it by saying this. We need to take a look at the curriculum. I'm not worried about that because we pivot very quickly. Kenyans have very highly skilled and have very highly technical education, but is it the right skill set required for the future? Let's explore and say, mechanical engineer, chemical engineer, water treatment, computer-aided design, those are career paths. Let's open those career paths for people, right? And then third, we're not the only ones struggling with this. America is struggling with this right now, trying to figure out what the workforce of the future is. And Josh, as you rightly put, we're probably well positioned because we don't have to go through all the telecom lines. We went straight to wireless. We're at that point too. Coming out of this conference, the one takeaway is each and every one of you need to know more about AI infrastructure. Each and every one of you need to share this information with at least 5 people. Each of you need to sign up to 7net so that you can get that upskilling, because that's the way we mobilize everyone.
Thank you. Over to you, Karan.
Yeah, just I love what Dr. Ichi has said, and just to emphasize a few things, I would say, if you, we are talking about artificial intelligence, and for me, the biggest infrastructure, especially us as Africans, the biggest infrastructure is going to be a classroom. Now that we are talking about education, and Mwalimu mentioned that, a classroom is going to be very, very important for us, because that is where we are going to train the talent. And Dr. Eche has given us some of the strategies that we can employ. So the biggest question is, just looking, for example, for investment in education. If you look at UNESCO, for example, it has emphasized that governments in Africa need to make sure that we are spending around 4% of our national GDP in education. But since 2012, we have remained around 3.7. So there is a gap in terms of resources that need to go to education. And when Mwalimu was mentioning about secondary schools, how much money are we investing in our young people, especially in secondary school, when it comes to technology and specifically artificial intelligence? I think we have a very, very big challenge, and the government has a really big role to play there. Equally, the diaspora. And I say the government because the government has to create an ecosystem where we can tap into the African diaspora so that we can help. And a professor here mentioned the challenges that she faced, actually, just trying to get some of our Kenyans to be able to learn. We have tried personally with some of my friends that work in tech to organize for sessions where we have East Africans, we have a platform for East Africans. And not so many people show up, even when we bring different experts from the tech industry here in the US to just try and mentor young people. One of the challenges that I always face, some of them, they're in universities, they don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have data. So there are so many infrastructural challenges that our education systems are facing. If you look at the university, the funding model for our universities, specifically in Kenya, how much money is actually going into our universities to just fund specific programs? Still, we are lagging behind there. So we have a very, very good opportunity for us to do a lot of investments in those areas. Add more resources to our universities, because we have mentioned here, if you look at Silicon Valley, for example, it started with schools, research institutions. You look at Silicon Valley, you're looking at Stanford, you're looking at Berkeley. If you go to Silicon Slopes in Utah, you're looking at universities like Brigham Young University, University of Utah, and other universities around Utah for Silicon Slopes. So we have a great opportunity, and it has to go to our institutions. That is where we need to put investments, and from there we can scale. Thank you.
All right, they've given you a lot of information, so I'm just going to summarize the education. Kenya is now behind. I just finished getting a grant to write curriculum to educate American teachers to teach AI. So Kenya, we are now behind. We are in the midst of what is happening across the world as far as educating. When it comes to secondary school, when we did computer science for all, we started with high school and we found out, no, students need to know something before they come to high school. And then we said, okay, then middle schoolers need to know so much, and then K-5 needs to know so much. So in all, when it comes to education, we need to make sure that our education is changing so that we are having that language starting from preschool so that the kids are getting exposed. I'm not saying they have computers at that area, at that level, but we need to set up our education so that by the time they get to high school, to secondary, they know what is happening. We can't just drop kids in secondary or even in college. Even here, in my own university, we just set up our AI curriculum. So Kenya is now behind. We just need to start setting up right, but we need to set it right with the right people. And I'm not proud enough to say that I know so much, but I've been in this space as a software developer and as an educator and a certified teacher to teach teachers how to teach. I went back to school myself to be taught how to teach because it's an art, so we need to do that, yeah. But we are not behind, yeah.
Teaching the teachers, leapfrogging, So we have had a very good conversation. And before we go real quick, I want to add something about the ecosystem. Right now, I work in an intellectual property office at the Texas A&M University. So the ecosystem of this country, how it works, is the government funds research. The researchers invent new, they work on particular problems. First, it starts with the president. Every new president in this country comes in and sets a research agenda. The Bush was biotechnology. Clinton was entrepreneurship. Obama was entrepreneurship, right? Of course, Trump, we just love him for who he is. But once the president sets the agenda, the universities get the funding. The researchers work on the present day problems of America, right? So those present day problems and new inventions, they get allocated IP, right? We file intellectual property, and the government has the first right to that technology. So my office, what we do is we license that technology to the industry. Google came from Stanford. Google licensed their technology out of Stanford. So you set up companies, those companies create products, those products get bought by consumers, those consumers pay taxes, that taxes go back to fund the research. So it's an ecosystem that works, right? So, and every university in this country has what they call a technology transfer. And that technology transfer is the one that builds products in this country, where the products are paid. But in that, thank you so much. Thank you for the panel.
Sorry, just one more thing real quick, because Julius asked about barrier of entry.
Oh yeah, barriers
I just
to
wanted
entry.
to say,
Yeah.
I think today, Kenya, or any African country, is very well positioned. We have never had the lowest barrier of entry to AI exist today. Just like Dr. said about education, you have access to education.
Yeah.
I heard this term, KOT. Does anyone know what KOT is? Kenyans on? How many Kenyans use Twitter or YouTube are creative? So there is no barrier of entry over here when it comes to
Dr. This conversation is just a starting conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ishata, let us appreciate you. And thanks for the challenge that you've given us. What Mak'Ouma started is a revolution, and revolutions are never started by many people. So the people in this room are the revolutionaries that we are talking about. Dr. Karani, we really appreciate you. You've challenged us from an institutional perspective. I happen to come from an institution, Daystar University, which is about an hour away from the Konza Technopolis that we are talking about. I will be more than glad, Prof. Debbie, to have a conversation about how can we engineer Daystar University to be a pioneer in these matters we are talking about. Dr. Jim, we really appreciate for holding us, and thanks for your patience that you had with our country in Kenya. And as I also stand here as part of government, I also give my commitment. Dr. Mak'Ouma, thank you for this forum, and the commitment we can give is let us restart again. Let us not give up on each other. Ladies and gentlemen, let us appreciate our panelists.